By the way, I got to step back one big step because you're using this word yoga, and some people will be like, wait a second, this yoga podcast? I was expecting instructions on down dog.
Okay.
We're using yoga in the classical sense of connecting the spirit to the divine.
Yeah.
That's what yoga means. The asanas are a condiment of a much bigger meal. Does that make sense? It's a yoga podcast because it's teaching the essence of yoga. The essence of yoga is connection, right? Right? It'd be awkward, right? If we've taken the condiment and made it the meal in the West, haven't we? Hmm. If you say I'm doing yoga, what does that mean?
I'm doing asana.
It means I'm doing the asana practice. That's the equivalent of me saying, come on over to my house. You want some condiments? Come on. Or you want lunch? Yeah, bring him a bowl of sea salt. Here's some chutney and sea salt. Enjoy it.
Now, does it mean that the chutney and the sea salt aren't very valuable?
They're valuable and they're tasty. But they're part of a bigger meal. And the meal is the changing of the consciousness.
Yeah.
The changing of the vision.
Can I share a definition of yoga?
Yes, you may, Prabhu.
So yoga is a practice which empowers one to overcome the obstacle of the mind for the purpose of the self experiencing its own true nature.
Say that again.
Yoga is a practice.
We're talking about like men have short memories. I was like, I just heard that and I can't remember it. Say it again. I'm going to listen this time. I'm really going to concentrate.
Yoga is a practice which empowers one to overcome the obstacle of the mind.
Okay, got that.
Why? For the purpose of the self experiencing its own true nature. Okay.
Okay, I might have to hear that 3 times, but
that's
I'm
how
going to go
again
with that here.
Okay, so in other words, yoga is a practice that
you got to write that down on the board there.
Okay, we'll do. But yoga is a practice that's meant to address the mind. Any kind of yoga, in any practice in yoga, any mantra that we chant, any asana that we do, any ritual that we follow, any social mores that are connected to the yoga culture that we follow, there's a reason for them all, and that reason is always going to be connected to how it affects the mind. Now, why are we trying to deal with the mind? Because it's the mind that's standing between us experiencing our own true nature. What is the nature of the self? These scriptures are going to tell us that the true nature of the self is Satchidananda, eternal, full of wisdom or knowledge, and full of bliss. That's who we are underneath. But we're not experiencing it because we're not identifying with the self. We're identifying with the mind and the body. And it's this very tricky mind that prevents us from experiencing that true nature. So yoga is a practice which is to help us get control of the mind so that it stops interfering. Now, what is asana for? We use the word yoga to refer to asana. Asana is a practice that affects the body. The body affects the mind, right? So we practice asana so that all of the channels in the body are flowing smoothly, because when our digestive system and our respiratory system and et cetera, and all of these channels in the body are flowing smooth, then the mind tends to become more lucid and clear. And then we can use that as a stage to go deeper into meditation and go within. So it has a connection to the mind. And ultimately so that we can go in and connect with the true nature of the self, and through doing that, connect with divinity. So when I'm using the word yoga in that sense, I'm talking about that there's so much literature, yogic literature, there's so much literature about how to feel the complete nature of the self, how to connect with God completely. It's the mind that's in the way, and yoga is meant to address the mind.